Have you ever felt like your life was quietly trying to tell you something, but you kept brushing it aside? There are moments that don't feel random, certain dreams that refuse to fade, patterns that repeat, opportunities that appear again and again in different forms. Yet at the time, you told yourself it was coincidence. You called it luck. You called it imagination. You moved on. But what if it wasn't random? What if your future has been gently introduced to you many times, and you simply did not recognize it? Some people move through life reacting to circumstances. Others begin to notice something deeper. They realize that before every major shift, there were subtle previews. Before the career change, there was a persistent interest they couldn't ignore. Before the relocation, there was a long-standing fascination with a different place. Before stepping into leadership, there were small moments where others naturally turned to them for guidance. The signs were not loud. They were not dramatic. They were quiet nudges. Think about your own life. What themes keep returning? What skills do people constantly point out in you? What kind of problems are you always drawn to solving? These are not accidents. Patterns reveal direction. Many people imagine the future as something that suddenly arrives one day, fully formed and undeniable. But often, the future whispers long before it speaks clearly. It shows up as curiosity, as discomfort with your current limits, as a sense that you are meant to grow beyond what is familiar. Have you ever experienced a situation where you felt strangely prepared for something you had never done before, almost as if you had been trained through life experiences without realizing it? That feeling is powerful. It suggests that preparation was happening quietly behind the scenes. Sometimes the chosen feeling is misunderstood. It does not mean superiority. It does not mean destiny is guaranteed. It simply means you are aware that your life carries responsibility, aware that your potential demands development, aware ignoring your growth feels heavier than pursuing it. But recognition requires reflection, and reflection requires honesty. It is easier to dismiss signs than to act on them. Acting means change. Change means risk. Risk means stepping away from comfort. So we rationalize. We say, it's not the right time. We say, I'm not ready. We say, maybe later. Yet the impressions return. Opportunities may not look identical each time, but they echo the same message. Learn this, develop that, strengthen here, let go of that habit, build discipline, increase courage. The future does not usually arrive as a dramatic announcement. It builds through repeated invitations. The question is not whether your future has been shown to you in some form. The real question is, were you paying attention? Perhaps the reason certain experiences felt intense is because they were shaping you. Perhaps the reason some doors closed was to redirect you. Perhaps the reason you feel restless is not dissatisfaction, but growth trying to push you forward. What if the life you are meant to step into has already been introduced to you? And now it is waiting for you to recognize it. There is a reason certain ideas never leave you alone. You may try to distract yourself. You may focus on responsibilities, routines, expectations placed on you by family or society. Yet deep inside, there is a quiet pull. It does not shout. It does not demand attention aggressively. It simply remains, persistent, patient. Why do some visions of your future feel so emotionally charged? Why do certain possibilities excite you and intimidate you at the same time? That mixture of fear and attraction is not random. It often signals growth. Think back to moments when you felt unusually inspired. Perhaps you watched someone speak with confidence and thought, I could do that. Maybe you saw a problem in your community and felt a strong urge to fix it. Maybe you found yourself teaching others naturally, guiding without effort, encouraging without hesitation. These glimpses are not accidents. They are reflections of capacity, yet recognition requires maturity. When we are younger, we often interpret potential as fantasy. We underestimate the significance of our instincts. We believe that only extraordinary people step into meaningful roles. We assume greatness belongs to someone else. But what if your consistent interests are evidence of alignment? There is a difference between fleeting desire and recurring direction. A fleeting desire fades quickly. A recurring direction returns over years. It adapts to your circumstances but never fully disappears. It evolves with you. Have you noticed how certain lessons keep repeating in your life? Perhaps you keep being placed in situations that require patience, or leadership, or resilience. At first, it feels frustrating. Why does this keep happening to me? But repetition is rarely meaningless. Repetition builds strength in a specific area. Preparation does not always look like preparation. Sometimes it looks like setbacks. Sometimes it looks like delays. Sometimes it feels like being overlooked. Yet those experiences sharpen perception. They develop discipline. They deepen empathy. Consider how many people miss their own development because they expect dramatic signals. They wait for a loud confirmation. They wait for absolute certainty. But life often communicates through patterns, not proclamations. When you ignore these patterns, something inside feels unsettled. You may achieve external success yet still feel incomplete. Why? Because success without alignment feels empty. On the other hand, when you move even slightly toward your deeper direction, you feel energized. Even small steps bring clarity. You might ask yourself, what environments make me feel most alive? What conversations ignite my thinking? What kind of contribution would make my struggles meaningful? The answers may already exist within you. Being chosen in this context does not mean guaranteed outcomes. It means you have been given awareness and opportunity. It means you sense that your life has purpose beyond routine survival. It means you understand that potential unused becomes regret. Perhaps the future has been shown to you through repeated invitations to grow, through challenges that built exactly the traits you will one day need, through interests that refuse to disappear, through responsibilities that stretched you beyond comfort. The real transformation begins not when the future appears, but when you finally acknowledge it. And once you acknowledge it, you can no longer pretend you did not see it. There comes a moment when denial becomes heavier than acceptance. You start to realize that the restlessness you feel is not confusion. It is clarity trying to surface. For years, you may have told yourself that you were overthinking, that you were imagining things, that you should just be grateful and stay where you are. But deep down, you knew something was unfolding. Why does comfort sometimes feel uncomfortable? Why does staying the same begin to feel like shrinking? Growth has a strange way of disturbing stability. When you are meant to expand, what once satisfied you begins to feel too small. Conversations that used to entertain you now feel shallow. Environments that once felt secure now feel limiting. It is not arrogance. It is awareness. Many people silence that awareness because it demands responsibility. Once you see your potential, you cannot blame circumstances forever. Once you recognize that you are capable of more, excuses lose their power. Think about the skills you developed through hardship, the patience learned through waiting, the strength built through disappointment, the discernment sharpened by betrayal. None of those experiences were pleasant, but they were formative. They carved depth into you. Have you noticed how certain challenges seem specifically tailored to develop a particular trait within you? It is almost as if life keeps presenting the same lesson until you master it. At first, you resist. You ask, "Why me?" Eventually, you begin to ask a better question. What is this teaching me? That shift changes everything. Instead of viewing obstacles as punishment, you begin to see them as preparation. Instead of seeing delays as rejection, you start recognizing them as refinement. The timing may not align with your preferences, but the development aligns with your capacity. There is also a difference between ambition and alignment. Ambition is often fueled by comparison. Alignment is fueled by conviction. Ambition says, "I want what they have." Alignment says, "I feel drawn to this path, even if no one applauds." When your future has been shown to you in fragments, it rarely comes with applause. It comes with responsibility. It comes with quiet inner confirmation. It comes with moments where you sense that stepping forward will require courage that you have not yet fully demonstrated. Ask yourself honestly, what decision have you been postponing? What step feels intimidating but necessary? What version of yourself keeps appearing in your imagination during moments of reflection? You may have dismissed those visions because they seemed too big, too demanding, too different from your current reality. But often, the size of the vision matches the size of your potential, not your present circumstances. The fear you feel is not always a warning to stop. Sometimes it is evidence that you are standing at the edge of growth. Fear and excitement can feel similar in the body. The difference lies in interpretation. What if the hesitation you feel is not proof that you are incapable, but proof that you are on the verge of change? When you begin to see your past experiences as training rather than random events, your perspective shifts. You stop asking whether you are ready. You start preparing intentionally, and preparation signals that recognition has finally begun. Recognition is powerful, but action is transformative. You can spend years sensing that you are meant for something more. You can analyze your patterns, reflect on your experiences, even admit that your life has been quietly guiding you. But until you move, nothing changes. At some point, awareness demands response. What does it look like to truly recognize your future? It looks like making different decisions. It looks like saying no to distractions that once consumed you. It looks like investing time in developing the skills you keep being drawn toward. It looks like choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. Many people wait for perfect clarity before they begin. They want guarantees. They want certainty. But growth rarely provides contracts. It provides direction, and direction becomes clearer through movement. If you have repeatedly felt pulled toward leadership, then perhaps it is time to lead in small ways. If you have consistently been drawn to helping others, perhaps it is time to formalize that desire through study, training, or service. If you have always imagined building something meaningful, perhaps it is time to start. Even if the beginning feels imperfect, you do not need a dramatic sign to validate your path. You need discipline. You need consistency. You need the courage to trust the lessons you have already lived through. Consider how different your life would look if you treated every recurring insight as instruction rather than imagination. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you begin asking, "What if this is exactly what I have been prepared for?" There is also humility in this process. Recognizing potential does not mean believing you are superior. It means understanding that opportunity carries responsibility. It means acknowledging that growth requires character, patience, and ethical grounding. When you reflect on your journey, you may start to see how each phase contributed something essential. The seasons of isolation strengthened independence. The seasons of collaboration taught cooperation. The seasons of uncertainty deepened resilience. Nothing was wasted. But the future will not unfold automatically. It responds to commitment. It responds to intentional development. It responds to alignment between belief and behavior. So ask yourself, if your future has been shown to you in subtle ways, what is the next faithful step you can take? Not the biggest step, not the most impressive one. The next honest one. Perhaps it is learning. Perhaps it is letting go of an environment that no longer supports your growth. Perhaps it is finally embracing a role you have long resisted. Whatever it is, clarity grows through obedience to insight. One day, you may look back and realize that the signs were always there. The repeated themes, the persistent interests, the shaping challenges, the quiet inner conviction. The only difference between the life you imagined and the life you live will be whether you chose to recognize what was already being shown to you. And maybe the reason you are hearing this now is because recognition is no longer optional. It is time to step forward with intention, grounded in reflection, guided by responsibility, and committed to becoming the person your experiences have been preparing you to be. There is something else you must understand. Not everyone will recognize what you are becoming. When you begin to step into alignment with your deeper direction, the shift may confuse people around you. They are used to the version of you that fit within certain limits. They are comfortable with the identity you have already outgrown. Growth can feel threatening to those who are not ready to grow themselves. This is where conviction becomes essential. If your future has been shown to you through repeated patterns, through persistent inner awareness, through the shaping of your character, then you cannot rely solely on external validation. There will be moments when no one applauds your discipline. No one understands your decisions. No one sees the internal transformation taking place. But that does not make it less real. Ask yourself, are you willing to honor your growth even when it is inconvenient? Even when it requires solitude? Even when it means being misunderstood for a season? Every meaningful transition demands separation from an older version of yourself. You cannot carry every habit, every mindset, every distraction into your next level of responsibility. Some attachments must be released. Some environments must be outgrown. Some doubts must be confronted directly. And this is where many people retreat. They recognize the signs. They feel the pull. They even begin preparing. But when the cost becomes visible, they hesitate. They negotiate with their comfort. They delay their progress. Yet consider this. What is the cost of not moving forward? Regret has a quiet weight. It accumulates slowly. It whispers questions like, what would have happened if you tried? Over time, that question becomes heavier than the fear of failure. You do not need to have everything figured out. You need momentum. Small, consistent steps create clarity. Action refines vision. Experience strengthens confidence. The future you sensed is not built in a single leap. It is built in daily decisions, in choosing discipline over impulse, in choosing learning over stagnation, in choosing courage over avoidance. And perhaps the most important shift is this: stop seeing your potential as something distant. It is not waiting somewhere far ahead. It is already forming through your choices today. Who you are becoming is shaped by what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you prioritize. If your life has been quietly guiding you toward greater responsibility, then your daily habits must begin to reflect that direction. There is strength in humility, and there is power in self-awareness. Recognizing your path does not mean claiming certainty about every detail. It means committing to growth with integrity. It means understanding that development is a lifelong process. One day, the things that once felt uncertain will feel obvious. The patterns will make sense. The preparation will be clear. You will see how each experience contributed to the person you needed to become. But that clarity belongs to the future. Right now, you stand in the space between awareness and action. You have seen enough to know that your life carries direction. You have felt enough to understand that stagnation is no longer an option. The question is no longer whether signs were present. The question is whether you will step forward and become what those signs have been shaping you to be.